The great hall was bigger than most cities. Its walls were made of crystal that caught light from 1,000 different stars. The floor was so wide that it took 20 minutes to walk from one side to the other. Above them, a dome showed the spinning galaxy with all its bright stars and dark spaces. Senator Vexthara stood up from her chair. She was tall and thin, with purple skin that sparkled like jewels. Her 4 arms moved as she spoke, which was how her people showed they were serious about something. Her big violet eyes looked around the room at all the other senators. "Friends," she said, and her voice came out of speakers in every language known to the galaxy. "We have a problem that has been with us for 300 years. Look there." She pointed to an empty chair in the front row. "That seat belongs to Earth, the humans. They were invited to join us long ago, but they have never come. Not once." The room filled with noise as thousands of beings started talking at once. Some looked like giant insects with shiny shells and clicking mouths. Others were like living plants with leaves instead of hair. There were creatures made of light that flickered when they got excited, and beings that looked like rocks but could think and speak. Senator Kilos stood up next. He was from the Andromedan Empire and looked like a huge lizard that walked on 2 legs. His scales were green and gold, and they caught the light as he moved. "Maybe the humans think they are better than us," he said. His voice was deep and rumbling, like distant thunder. "Everyone knows they have big ships and strong weapons. Maybe they think they don't need us. Or maybe they just don't care," said Ambassador Thyra. She was a Verdanian, one of the plant people. Her voice sounded like wind blowing through leaves. "These humans only think about taking over new worlds. They spread across space like weeds in a garden." More voices joined the conversation. Some were angry, others were curious, and a few sounded worried. The Crickstar delegate, who looked like a praying mantis the size of a person, clicked his mouthparts together. "In my experience," he said, "when someone refuses to join a group, they usually have a reason. Maybe we should ask what that reason is." The debate went on for hours. Every species had their own idea about why the humans stayed away. The Zentari thought it was because humans were proud and stubborn. The Voidborn, who were made of pure energy, believed humans were afraid of being judged by older, wiser races. The Aquatic Federation thought maybe humans couldn't breathe the air in the Senate chambers. Senator Vexthara listened to all the different ideas. Some of them made sense, but none of them felt right. She had read the reports about humans. They were not stupid or weak. They had helped fight in several wars to protect other species. They had shared their technology and knowledge when asked. They seemed like good neighbors in space. But why won't they come here? She wondered out loud. The room grew quiet when an old voice spoke up. Everyone turned to look at the Keeper of Records. Nobody knew his real name or what species he was. He had been in the Senate since before most of their worlds had been discovered. His body was covered in gray robes, and his face was hidden in shadows. "Young senators," the Keeper said, and his voice sounded like stones grinding together. "You ask why the humans do not come. But you do not ask the right question." "What is the right question?" asked Senator Vexthara. "The right question is this: what are they doing instead of coming here?" The room became very quiet. The Keeper slowly stood up from his ancient chair. He was so old that he needed a walking stick made from some kind of metal that nobody recognized. "In my long life," he continued, "I have seen many species join our Senate. Some come because they want to make friends. Some come because they want to trade. Some come because they are afraid and need protection. But I have also seen species who do not come at all." He paused and looked around the room with eyes that seemed to see everything. "The ones who do not come usually have a very good reason. Sometimes they are busy with something more important than our meetings. What could be more important than galactic peace? Asked Senator Kellos Dot. The keeper made a sound that might have been laughter, but it was not happy laughter. Young lizard, you think this galaxy is safe because we meet here and talk. But there are things in the dark spaces between stars that would make you forget your own name from fear. There are threats that come from places we cannot see or understand. The senators looked at each other nervously. Some of them had heard stories about dangerous things in deep space, but most thought they were just old tales told to scare children. Are you saying the humans are fighting something? Asked Ambassador Thyra. I am saying, the keeper replied, that if you want to know why someone chooses not to sit in a chair, you should ask them yourself. But be ready for an answer you might not like. The room was quiet for a long time. Finally, Senator Vexthara spoke again. Then we should send someone to Earth. We should ask them directly. Who will go? Asked Senator Kilos. I will, said a new voice. Everyone turned to see Ambassador Zarolin from the Celestial Dominion. She was beautiful, made of living crystal. That changed colors when she felt different emotions. Right now, she was glowing with a soft blue light that meant she was determined. The Celestial Dominion has always been good at talking to other species, she said. If anyone can get answers from the humans, it will be me. The vote was quick. Almost everyone agreed that Ambassador Zarolin should go to Earth and ask the humans why they never came to the Senate. Only a few voted against it, and they were mostly worried about what the answer might be. As the meeting ended, and the senators went back to their ships, the keeper of records sat alone in the great hall. He looked at the empty chair that belonged to Earth and shook his head slowly. They will learn, he whispered to himself. They will learn why some seats are empty by choice, not by accident. Outside the crystal walls, the galaxy spun on, full of bright stars and dark spaces. Somewhere out there, human ships moved through the darkness, watching and waiting for things that most people never wanted to know about. The empty chair remained empty, but soon everyone would understand why. 3 months had passed since the big meeting in the Senate. Ambassador Zarolin sat in her ship as it dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Sol system. Her ship was called the Harmony's Dream, and it was built for peaceful missions. It had no weapons, only the best communication equipment in the galaxy. Zarolin was nervous. She had changed from her usual blue color to a worried yellow-green. Her crystal body sparkled with tiny lights that showed she was thinking hard about something. She had read every file about humans that the Senate had, but none of them explained why they stayed away from the big meetings. The humans are strange, she said to herself, looking at the reports on her screen. They have been traveling in space for 400 years. They have colonies on many worlds. They have helped fight wars to protect other species. They seem like good people. So why don't they come to the Senate? Her ship's computer made a soft, beeping sound. Ambassador, we are approaching the Sol system. I am detecting multiple defense platforms and patrol ships. Zarolin looked out the window and was surprised by what she saw. The whole solar system was like a giant fortress. There were metal stations floating in space, each one bigger than a city. Hundreds of ships moved in patterns around the planets, watching every direction. Sensors and weapons pointed toward the dark spaces between stars. Why do they need so many defenses? She wondered. Are they afraid of something? Her ship's computer spoke again. Ambassador, we are being scanned by 12 different defense systems. They are asking for our identification codes. Send them our diplomatic papers, Zarolin said. Tell them we come in peace from the Galactic Senate. There was a pause. Then the computer said, they are sending an escort. 12 human ships are coming to guide us to Earth. Zarolin watched as the human ships approached. They were sleek and fast, painted in dark colors that made them hard to see against the blackness of space. Each ship looked like it was ready for war with weapons that could destroy planets. These are not peaceful ships, she thought. These are ships built for fighting. The lead human ship sent a message. A woman's voice came through the speakers. Ambassador Zarelin, this is Captain Lisa Murphy of the Terran Defense Force. We will escort you to Earth Station Alpha. Please follow our lead and do not change course. Thank you, Captain Murphy, Zarelin replied. I come seeking answers about why Earth does not attend the Senate meetings. There was a long pause before Captain Murphy answered. Ma'am, that's not my area. You'll need to talk to the people in charge of that stuff. But I can tell you this. There's always a good reason for everything we do. As they traveled toward Earth, Zarelin noticed more things that seemed strange. There were huge telescopes pointed at the dark spaces between stars. She saw ships that looked like they were built for long journeys into dangerous places. Everything she saw suggested that humans were watching and waiting for something. What are you watching for? She asked Captain Murphy. Things that most people don't need to worry about, the captain answered. That's our job. When they reached Earth Station Alpha, Zarelin was amazed by its size. The station was bigger than most moons, with thousands of ships docked at its ports. People and machines worked everywhere, building new ships and fixing old ones. It looked like they were preparing for a war. A woman was waiting for her at the docking port. She was middle-aged with gray hair and tired eyes that had seen too much. She wore a simple uniform with no fancy decorations. Ambassador Zarelin, the woman said, with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. I'm Director Kate Morrison, of the Terran Diplomatic Corps. We've been expecting someone like you for quite some time. Director Morrison, Zarelin replied, her crystal body shifting to a respectful blue color. I come from the Galactic Senate seeking answers. Many of my colleagues believe humans think they are too good for our meetings. Kate's expression became serious. Ambassador, would you be willing to meet with our Senate liaison? He knows more about this than I do. But I have to warn you, the answer might not be what your Senate wants to hear. As they walked through the station, Zarelin noticed that every human she saw looked ready for action. They moved with purpose, like soldiers who were always prepared for battle. Children played games that looked like combat training. Even the old people seemed alert and watchful. Director Morrison, Zarelin said, forgive me for asking, but why does everyone here seem so ready for war? Kate stopped walking and looked at her with those tired eyes. Because we always have to be ready. It's the price we pay for keeping the galaxy safe. Safe from what? You'll understand soon enough, Kate said. But first, let me ask you something. How old are you, Ambassador? I am 230 years old, Zarelin replied. Why do you ask? Because our Senate liaison is only 55 years old, but he looks like he's lived twice as long. Every human who does his job ages fast. It's a hard job, knowing what we know. They walked through more corridors filled with busy people. Zarelin saw families saying goodbye to each other, as if the people leaving might not come back. She saw scientists working on strange machines that she didn't recognize. She saw soldiers training with weapons that looked like they were made to fight things that weren't human. Director Morrison, she said, I'm beginning to think there's something important that the Senate doesn't know about. Kate stopped at a door marked with a simple sign, Senate Liaison Office. She looked at Zarelin with an expression that was part sadness and part sympathy. Ambassador, in all my years of diplomatic work, I've never had to explain something this difficult. The truth is, humans don't come to Senate meetings because we're too busy doing something else. Something that keeps all of you safe while you sleep at night. What do you mean? The galaxy is not as safe as you think it is. There are things in the dark spaces between stars that would destroy every world you know. The Senate talks about peace and trade, but they don't talk about the real threats. That's because they don't know about them? Kate put her hand on the door handle. The man inside this office has seen things that would give your worst nightmares nightmares. He's lost friends, family, and parts of his soul-protecting species that don't even know they need protecting. And this is why you don't come to the Senate? This is why we can't come to the Senate, Kate corrected. Because while you're having meetings, we're out there fighting battles that most people can't even imagine. We're the ones who make sure the galaxy stays peaceful enough for you to have those meetings. She opened the door and gestured for Zara Lynn. To enter, meet Commander Jake Sullivan. He'll tell you everything you need to know. But remember, once you hear the truth, you can't go back to not knowing it. Inside the small office, a man sat behind a desk covered with reports and star charts. He looked up as they entered, and Zara Lynn saw eyes that held the weight of terrible knowledge. This was a man who had seen things that changed him forever. "Ambassador," he said, standing to greet her, "please sit down. I suppose you want to know why we don't attend the Senate sessions." "Yes, Commander Sullivan. My people find it very strange." Jake looked out the window at the stars and sighed. "Tell me, Ambassador, what do you know about the Devourer War?" Zara Lynn's crystal body flickered with confusion. "I'm sorry, but I don't know anything about a war by that name." "Of course you don't," Jake said quietly. "Most people don't. But it's the reason why that chair in the Senate stays empty. It's the reason why Earth is a fortress. It's the reason why humans can never rest." He turned back to face her, and Zara Lynn saw that his eyes held a pain that went deeper than any physical wound. "Are you ready to hear the truth, Ambassador? Because once I tell you, you'll understand why some burdens are too heavy to share." Ambassador Zara Lynn sat in the small office, her crystal body glowing with a worried amber light. Commander Jake Sullivan stood by the window, looking out at the stars like he was watching for something dangerous. The silence stretched between them until Jake finally spoke. "The Devourer War happened 237 years ago," he said. "It was 3 years after Earth joined the Galactic Senate. We were new members, still learning how everything worked." Jake walked to his desk and picked up an old photograph. It showed a smiling woman in a military uniform standing next to a large spaceship. "This is Admiral Lisa Chun. She was my grandmother's sister. She died saving the galaxy, but most people don't know her name." Zara Lynn leaned forward, her curiosity making her glow brighter. "What happened? Why don't I know about this war?" "Because by the time the Senate finished arguing about what to do, the war was already over," Jake said. He sat down heavily in his chair, looking older than his 55 years. "The Devourers came from the dark spaces between galaxies. They weren't alive like us. They were machines, but not like any computers we had ever seen." He activated a holographic display that showed a map of the galaxy. Red dots appeared at the edge, moving slowly toward the center. They consumed everything in their path: planets, stars, entire solar systems. They turned all the matter into energy, then used that energy to make more of themselves. "That's impossible," Zara Lynn said, her crystal body flickering with disbelief. "We thought so too," Jake replied, "until they hit the Kepler colonies. 17 worlds with billions of people. Gone in 4 days." The holographic display showed the red dots moving faster, consuming more and more systems. Zara Lynn watched in horror as world after world disappeared from the map. "The first distress calls came during a regular Senate session," Jake continued. "The senators were debating new trade rules for exotic metals. When the emergency broadcasts started coming in, most of them thought it was some kind of mistake. What did they do? They formed a committee to study the situation. Then they formed another committee to decide how to respond. Then they scheduled a special session to discuss the findings of the committees. Jake's voice grew bitter. While they were having meetings, the Devourers were moving toward the core worlds. Centauri Prime, Andromedan Central, the Voidborn Nexus, all of them were in the path of destruction. Zarolin's crystal body went pale. How long did the Senate take to act? 3 weeks. 3 weeks of debates and votes and arguments about who should lead the response. 3 weeks while entire civilizations were being erased from existence. The holographic display showed the red dots getting closer and closer to the major inhabited worlds. Zarolin realized that if the Devourers had continued their advance, her own homeworld would have been destroyed. What stopped them? She asked. Quietly, Jake stood up and walked to a wall covered with pictures. They showed humans in military uniforms, some young and some old, all with the same determined look in their eyes. Admiral Chun couldn't wait for the Senate to make up their mind. She took every ship Earth had and went to meet the Devourers. At the Thermopylae Nebula. How many ships? All of them. Every single vessel in the Terran fleet. Battleships, cruisers, destroyers, even cargo ships with weapons strapped to them. 60,000 ships carrying 12 million people. The holographic display changed to show a massive nebula filled with swirling gas and dust. Tiny blue dots represented the human fleet, while a vast cloud of red showed the Devourer swarm. Lee. Devourers had consumed 43 solar systems by then, Jake said. They were like a cloud of death, bigger than anything anyone had ever seen. Our ships looked like gnats attacking a hurricane. How could you hope to win? We couldn't. Not with conventional weapons. The Devourers could rebuild faster than we could destroy them. So Admiral Chun made a decision that saved the galaxy and damned her fleet. Jake touched a control, and the display zoomed in on a single star at the center of the nebula. There was a red giant star about to go supernova. Chun's scientists calculated that if they could trigger it early and control the explosion, they could create a gravity well strong enough to trap the entire Devourer swarm. But that would mean ... sacrificing the entire fleet. Yes, Chun knew that anyone who stayed to trigger the star would die. The gravitational forces would tear apart every ship in the system. Zarolin's crystal body was completely white now, the color of shock and horror. They did it anyway? They voted on it. Every captain, every crew member. The vote was unanimous. Jake's voice broke slightly. 12 million people chose to die to save the galaxy. They sent one message back to Earth. Tell our families we kept them safe. The display showed the moment of the star's collapse. A bright flash was followed by a massive black hole that pulled everything nearby into its hungry darkness. The red cloud of Devourers was stretched and twisted as they were dragged into the void. Every single Devourer was destroyed, Jake said. The threat was ended. The galaxy was safe. And most people never knew how close they came to extinction. This is incredible, Zarolin whispered. Why isn't this taught in schools? Why isn't Admiral Chun remembered as a hero? Jake's expression grew hard. Because 3 days after the battle, the Galactic Senate passed Resolution 2847C. They officially condemned humanity for reckless endangerment of stellar stability and unauthorized military action without Senate approval. What? The Senate was angry that we had acted without their permission. They said we were dangerous and unpredictable. Some senators suggested that Earth should be placed under galactic supervision to prevent future incidents. Zarolin couldn't believe what she was hearing. But you saved everyone. You saved the entire galaxy. That's not how they saw it. They were scared of what we had done. Scared that humans could destroy stars. Scared that we might do it again. Jake picked up another document from his desk. This is the official human response to the Senate's resolution. He handed her a simple piece of paper with a short message typed on it. Zarolin read it carefully, her crystal body shifting through different colors as she understood what it meant. The human species acknowledges the Galactic Senate's concerns, it read. However, we cannot submit our defensive capabilities to external oversight. We will continue to protect this galaxy from threats that emerge from dark space, with or without Senate approval. Our seat will remain empty until the Senate understands that some responsibilities are too important for politics. President Dan Parker wrote that, Jake said. He lost his only son in the Chun fleet, but he understood that someone had to be ready for the next threat. The next threat? Jake activated another display, this one showing recent sensor readings. From the edges of the galaxy. The Devourers weren't the only dangerous things out there, Ambassador. In the 200 years since the war, we've detected 17 major threats that could have ended civilization. The Senate never knew about 16 of them. What kind of threats? Rogue artificial intelligences that consume organic life. Entities from parallel dimensions that treat our reality like a feeding ground. Ancient weapons left behind by extinct species. Things that your worst nightmares couldn't imagine. Zaralyn looked at the sensor readings and saw patterns that made no sense to her. How do you fight such things? Carefully, quietly, and with the understanding that most people are better off not knowing about them. Jake sat back down, looking exhausted. Every threat we've faced has taught us something new about the dangers lurking in deep space. We've learned to watch, to wait, and to act when necessary. And the Senate never helps? The Senate is good at many things, Ambassador. Trade negotiations, territorial disputes, cultural exchanges. But they're not equipped to handle existential threats. They debate too long, compromise too much, and they don't understand that some enemies can't be reasoned with. Jake stood up and walked to the window again. Look out there. See those defense platforms? Those patrol ships? They're not there to protect Earth from other species. They're there to protect the galaxy from things that come from the dark spaces between stars. Zaralyn joined him at the window. How many humans know about this? All of us. It's why we're all trained for military service. It's why Earth is a fortress. It's why we can never relax our guard. Jake's voice was quiet but determined. We're the immune system of the galaxy, Ambassador. We identify threats and eliminate them before they can spread. But the cost ... is high. We lose people every year to missions that can never be officially acknowledged. We sacrifice our own comfort and safety to keep the galaxy peaceful. And we do it without asking for thanks or recognition. Zaralyn felt something she had never experienced before, the weight of terrible knowledge. What about the 17th threat? You said the Senate knew about one of them. Jake's expression darkened. That was the Sigma incident 3 years ago. A dimensional rift opened near the vegan system, and things started coming through. The Senate detected it and sent a research vessel to investigate. What happened? We had to destroy the ship before the contamination could spread. The Senate officially lists it as a tragic accident caused by equipment failure. You killed your own allies? We killed people who were already dead, Ambassador. The entities from the other dimension don't just kill, they... The office was quiet for a long time. Ambassador Zaralyn stood by the window, her crystal body cycling through colors as she tried to process everything she had learned. Commander Jake Sullivan sat at his desk, watching her with patient eyes. That had seen too much. I need to understand something, Zaralyn finally said. If humans have been protecting the galaxy for over 2 centuries, why does no one know about it? Jake pulled up another holographic display. This one showed news reports and official documents from various worlds. Because we make sure they don't have to know. Look at this report from the Centauri News Network, dated 15 years ago. The hologram showed a cheerful news anchor talking about a scientific expedition. Today marks the successful completion of the largest deep space Research Mission in Centauri History. The science vessel Bright Hope has returned with valuable data about dark matter formations in the outer rim. What really happened? Zarelin asked. The Bright Hope encountered a nest of void spawn, Jake replied. Parasitic entities that feed. Unconsciousness itself. The ship was infected, and the crew was slowly being consumed from the inside. We had to board the vessel and fight our way through creatures that could make you forget your own name just by looking at them. He changed the display to show combat footage from helmet cameras. Zarelin watched in horror as human soldiers fought against things that seemed to be made of living darkness. The creatures moved wrong, bent reality around them, and made sounds. That hurt to hear. We saved 12 crew members out of 43, Jake continued. The survivors don't remember what happened. We gave them false memories of a successful mission and let them return home as heroes. It's kinder that way, but the truth is that we lost 8 good people that day. Soldiers who volunteered to go into hell to save strangers. They died so that the Centauri could keep exploring space without fear. Zarelin watched more footage from different missions. She saw human ships fighting things that looked like living metal, creatures that existed in multiple dimensions at once, and entities that could turn planets into deserts just by being near them. How many of these missions happen? She asked. On average, 1 major threat every 3 years. But we also deal with smaller incidents, dimensional rifts, time anomalies, alien artifacts that drive people insane. Last month, we had to quarantine an entire asteroid field because someone found a weapon that could rewrite the laws of physics. Jake stood up and walked to a wall covered with names. Thousands of names, written in simple black letters. These are the humans who died protecting the galaxy. Most of them were never officially recognized. Their families know they died in service, but they can't know how or why. Zarelin approached the wall and read some of the names. Captain Sarah Davis, age 23. Lieutenant Mike Johnson, age 31. Dr. Amy Roberts, age 29. So many young people, their lives cut short by battles that would never be recorded in history. Books. They were volunteers, Jake said quietly. Every single one of them. We don't draft people for these missions. We ask for volunteers, and we tell them exactly what they're signing up for. The dangerous missions, the secrecy, the likelihood that they won't come home. And people still volunteer? More than we need. When you understand what's at stake, the choice becomes simple. Would you rather live in a galaxy where children can play safely, or one where they have to hide from things that crawl out of dark? Space? Jake activated another display, this one showing current patrol routes around the galaxy. Right now, we have 300 ships on deep space patrol. They're watching for signs of dimensional instability, monitoring for alien signals, and ready to respond to any threat that emerges. The Senate doesn't know about these patrols? The Senate thinks we're conducting scientific research and trade missions. They see our ships going out and coming back, and they assume we're doing normal spacefaring activities. It's better that way. Zarelin studied the patrol routes and noticed something. You're not just protecting human colonies. These routes cover every major trade lane and populated system in the galaxy. Of course, we don't just protect humans. We protect everyone. That's what it means to be guardians. Jake sat back down and pulled up a file marked with warning symbols. 3 months ago, we detected unusual readings from the Horsehead Nebula. Something was moving in there, something big. We sent a reconnaissance team to investigate. The display showed a video feed from a ship's camera. At first, there was nothing but gas and dust. Then shapes began to emerge from the nebula, massive geometric structures that didn't seem to follow the normal laws of physics. Builders, Jake said. That's what we call them. They're machines left behind by a species that died out millions of years ago. Normally, they sleep, but sometimes they wake up and start building again. Building what? Weapons, planet killers, things that could sterilize entire star systems. The video showed the structures growing larger, extending metal arms that reached for nearby asteroids. If they had finished their work, they would have turned the Horsehead Nebula into a fortress that could attack any world within 50 light years. What did you do? We stopped them, quietly, carefully. We sent in a team with specialized equipment to put them back to sleep. It took 6 weeks of delicate work, disabling their systems one by one without triggering their defense protocols. Display showed human technicians working in spacesuits, carefully cutting into alien machinery while massive weapons pointed at them. One wrong move would have meant death for the entire team. We lost 2 people on that mission, Jake said. Engineering specialist Carol Martinez and systems analyst Kevin Brown. They were both under 30. Both had families back on Earth. They died making sure that the builders would never wake up again. And the Senate never knew? The Senate received a report about unusual mineral formations in the Horsehead Nebula. As far as they know, it's just an interesting scientific discovery. Zarlin felt overwhelmed by the scope of what she was learning. How do you coordinate all of this without the Senate knowing? Very carefully. We have people in every major government and organization. Not spies, just humans who understand the situation and help us do what needs to be done. They provide cover stories, redirect attention, and make sure that the real threats stay hidden. Jake activated a new display showing Earth's command structure. The Terran Defense Force has 2 branches. The regular military that everyone knows about, and the Deep Space Division that handles the real threats. The DSD has its own ships, its own bases, and its own chain of command. How many people work for the Deep Space Division? About 50,000 active personnel, plus another 100,000 in support roles. Engineers, scientists, analysts, logistics specialists. It takes a lot of people to watch an entire galaxy. The display showed bases hidden in asteroid fields, research stations in dead solar systems, and communication relays scattered across dark space. It was a vast network dedicated to protecting civilizations that didn't even know they needed protecting. The cost must be enormous, Zarlin said. It is. Earth's entire economy is built around supporting the defense effort. Every citizen contributes, either through military service or civilian support roles. We don't have the luxury of a peaceful society. Jape showed her statistics about Earth's population. 70% of humans between the ages of 18 and 30 serve in the military. The rest work in defense industries, research facilities, or support services. We don't have artists or poets or philosophers like other worlds do. That's a terrible sacrifice. It's necessary. Someone has to carry the burden, and it fell to us. Jake's voice was matter of fact, but Zarlin could hear the sadness underneath. We made our choice 2 centuries ago, and we've lived with it ever since. He walked to another wall that showed pictures of Earth from different time periods. This is what Earth looked like before the Devourer War, he said, pointing to images of green continents and blue oceans. Cities full of people going about their normal lives. Children playing in parks. Artists creating beautiful things. Next set of pictures showed Earth as it was now, covered with military bases, defense platforms, and training facilities. This is what we became. A world dedicated to war, even in peacetime. Do you ever regret it? Jake was quiet for a long moment, sometimes. When I see reports from other worlds about music festivals or art exhibitions or scientific discoveries that have nothing to do with weapons, I wonder what humanity might have become if we had chosen differently. But you didn't choose differently. No. Because we understood something that the Senate still doesn't understand. The galaxy is not a safe place. It never was. We just happened to be the ones who saw the truth first. Jake activated one final display. This one showed a real-time map of the galaxy with tiny warning symbols scattered across it. These are active threats that we're monitoring right now. Dimensional weak points that could tear open at any moment. Ancient artifacts that are slowly waking up. Signals from dark space that suggest new entities are approaching our galaxy. Zarelin counted the symbols. There were dozens of them. All of these are dangerous? All of them could become dangerous. That's why we watch them constantly. The moment any of these situations changes, we're ready to respond. How do you sleep? Admiral Peterson led Ambassador Zarelin to a smaller room off the main command center. The walls were covered with screens, showing live feeds from across the galaxy. Each screen showed a different monitoring station, a different patrol ship, a different team of humans watching for threats in the darkness. Sit down, Ambassador, the Admiral said. What I'm about to show you is classified at the highest levels. Very few people outside of humanity have ever seen this information. Zarelin settled into a chair, her crystal body glowing with nervous energy. Why are you showing me? Because you asked the right question. You wanted to know why we don't. Come to the Senate. The truth is more complicated than just saying we're too busy. Admiral Peterson activated a large display that showed recent incident reports. 3 weeks ago, we detected a dimensional rift opening near the Vega system. Small at first, just a crack in space-time. But it was growing. Our scientists calculated that if it continued to expand, it would destabilize the entire local group of stars. The display showed a swirling vortex of energy that hurt to look at directly. We sent a team to investigate. What they found was a probe from another universe, one where the laws of physics work differently. The probe was trying to expand the rift so that more things could come through. What kind of things? Entities that feed on the energy that holds atoms together. If they had entered our universe, they would have turned everything they touched into dust. Planets, stars, entire solar systems would have simply fallen apart. Zarelin watched footage from the mission. Human soldiers in special suits worked frantically to close the rift while strange shapes pressed against the barrier between universes. How did you stop it? We didn't. Not completely. Admiral Peterson's expression was grim. We managed to shrink the rift down to almost nothing, but we couldn't close it entirely. So we built a monitoring station around it. 300 humans now spend their lives watching that tiny crack in space, making sure it never grows again. 300 people? 300 volunteers who will never see their families again. They live on a space station in the middle of nowhere, watching something that could destroy the galaxy if they fail for even a moment. The display showed the monitoring station, a small outpost surrounded by the vast emptiness of space. Zarelin could see tiny figures moving around inside, people who had given up everything to stand guard against an invisible threat. This is what we do, Admiral Peterson continued. While the Senate debates and argues, we find problems and solve them, quietly, permanently, without fanfare or recognition. But surely other species could help, could they? Let me show you what happened the one time we tried to get help. The Admiral brought up another file, this one marked with warning symbols. 5 years ago, we discovered an ancient weapon drifting in deep space. It was the size of a small moon, and our scans showed it was still partially active. We estimated it had enough power to destroy every planet in a 50 light-year radius. The screen showed images of a massive, crystalline structure covered in strange markings. We decided to ask for help from the Andromedan Empire. They have excellent scientists and engineers. We thought they could help us safely dismantle the weapon. What happened? They sent a research team. 50 of their best people, equipped with their most advanced technology. They spent 2 weeks studying the weapon, taking measurements, running tests. Admiral Peterson's voice grew cold. On the 15th day, one of their scientists decided to activate a small section of the weapon to see how it worked. He thought he could control it. The display showed a blinding flash of light. When it faded, there was nothing where the weapon had been. No debris, no energy signature, nothing. The weapon, the research team, and 3 nearby asteroids were completely erased from existence. Not destroyed, erased. As if they had never existed at all. Zaralin's crystal body went completely white. The scientists, 50 good people, who died because they didn't understand that some things should never be touched. They thought they could study the weapon safely because that's how their species approaches problems. Through research and analysis and careful study. And humans approach it differently. When we find something dangerous, we destroy it. We don't study it. We don't try to understand it. We don't wonder if we can learn something useful from it. We eliminate the threat and move on. Admiral Peterson activated another display showing human ships destroying ancient artifacts. In the past year alone, we've destroyed 12 alien artifacts that posed potential threats. Each one could have advanced galactic science by centuries. Each one could have been worth studying. But you destroyed them anyway, because the risk was too great. One of those artifacts was a machine that could rewrite genetic codes. In the right hands, it could have eliminated disease and extended lifespans. In the wrong hands, it could have turned every living thing in the galaxy into something else. The Admiral walked to a window that looked out into space. This is why. We can't attend Senate meetings, Ambassador. The Senate wants to study everything, negotiate with everyone, find peaceful solutions to every problem. Those are admirable goals, but they don't work when you're dealing with existential threats. You think the Senate is naive? I think the Senate is made up of species that have had the luxury of living in a safe galaxy. They've never had to make the hard choices because we've been making those choices for them. Admiral Peterson returned to his desk and picked up a communication device. Control, this is Peterson. Give me a status report on current threats. A voice came through the speaker. Admiral, we have 14 active monitoring situations. The Horsehead Nebula is stable. The Vega Rift is contained. Deep Patrol 6 reports unusual readings from the outer rim, but nothing immediate. The Sigma site remains quarantined. Any Senate involvement in current operations? Negative, sir. All operations are proceeding under standard protocols. Admiral Peterson set down the communicator and looked at Zaralin. Do you understand now? While we're having this conversation, 14 different situations could turn into galaxy-ending threats. Our people are watching, waiting, ready to act. It must be exhausting. It is. Every human child grows up knowing that they might be called to die for people they'll never meet. Every family lives with the knowledge that their loved ones might not come home from missions they can't talk about. The Admiral sat down across from her. But we do it anyway. Because someone has to. Because the alternative is the end of everything. What would happen if humanity stopped? If you decided you were tired of carrying this burden? Within 10 years, the galaxy would be dead. The threats we're currently monitoring would grow unchecked. New threats would emerge. The careful balance we've maintained for 2 centuries would collapse. Admiral Peterson activated one final display. This one showed a timeline stretching into the future, with probability calculations for various threat scenarios. Our scientists have run the numbers. Without constant vigilance and immediate response to threats, the galaxy has a 97% chance of experiencing a civilization-ending event within the next 50 years. And with your protection, the chance drops to less than 1%. Those are odds worth fighting for. Zaralin stood up, her crystal body cycling through colors, as she processed everything she had learned. I need to return to the Senate. They need to know about this. Do they? Admiral Peterson asked. What will you tell them? That humanity has been protecting them without their knowledge? That their peaceful galaxy exists only because we're willing to do terrible things to keep it safe? They deserve to know the truth. Do they? Will knowing make them safer? Will it help them sleep better at night? Or will it just make them afraid? Zarling considered this. What would you want me to tell them? Tell them that Earth's seat remains empty because we have other responsibilities. Tell them that we're honored to be part of the galactic community, even if we can't always participate in its meetings. And the rest? The rest stays classified? The galaxy is better off not knowing how close it comes to destruction on a regular basis. Admiral Peterson walked her to the door. Ambassador, I want you to remember something. Every species in the galaxy contributes something valuable. The Centauri make beautiful art. The Andromedans build amazing cities. The Voidborn push the boundaries of science and philosophy. And humans? Humans stand guard in the dark so that everyone else can create beautiful things. It's not a glamorous job, but it's necessary. As they walked back through the station, Zaralyn noticed something she had missed before. Despite the military atmosphere and the constant tension, there was something else in the air. Pride. The humans she saw weren't just tired soldiers carrying an impossible burden. They were people who knew their work mattered. Admiral, she said as they reached the docking bay, do you ever regret taking on this responsibility? Never, he replied without hesitation. My daughter is serving on deep patrol right now, watching for threats in the outer rim. My son died 3 years ago, stopping a dimensional incursion near Alpha Centauri. My wife works in the research division, developing new ways to detect threats before they become critical. Your whole family serves? Every family serves. It's not a burden we place on a few. It's a responsibility we all share.